that means the TTPS is joining us on now in the form of Inspector Michelle Lewis. Good morning to you, Inspector.
Good morning, gentlemen. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago on the World Wide Web, www. It's a pleasure to be here as usual.
When we're talking about proactive policing, though, I want to ask the question, what does that mean? Because I remember Paul Keynes Douglas saying that there was a coup, and one police officer was saying, hey, let me arrest that fellow for being outside of coup hours. And the fellow said, but it's not 6 o'clock yet. The fellow said, no, I know where you live, and here go make it home in time. So what do you mean when you say proactive policing?
Well, certainly that is not proactive policing.
So whatever that is not an example.
But proactive policing means where the police takes preventative measures or strategies to prevent crime from occurring. So it will mean looking at data, looking at where crime has been taking place, what causing the crime, and seeing where we can prevent it from happening. So it's really crime prevention through proactive policing strategies.
Tell us more about that, because I feel like I need examples as to how that works.
All right, sure. So for example, right now the TTPS do what we call geofencing, which is that we collect the data and we see where crimes have been happening, the times that it will happen, the location, the time of the day that the incident occur, where exactly it's happening. And we collect that data and send it to the division or the district to be able to strategically deploy the patrols, whether foot or mobile, so that if there has been an increase or a spike or there's a trend in a particular district, that data and geofencing would cause the police to prevent further criminal activities from taking place in that particular area. So proactive policing is really seeing where the crimes are taking place and preventing it from taking place.
But is it that the patrolling is what is preventing it from taking place?
Patrolling is also one of our strategies, particularly with the lights, the swivel lights being utilized in the night and in the day, because you do see it in the day. So it's a proactive, a preventative measure. With the swivel lights on the police vehicles, persons who see that know that the police is around. It also gives that assurance to the community or members of the public that the police is in the area. But that's just one aspect of it in terms of crime prevention and crime prevention strategies and crime and deterrent.
But in addition to, because I was going to ask that patrolling, but from a slightly different perspective, in terms of, yes, the geofencing is one so that you have raw data, but I like the point you made of assurance. How important are relationships, having relationships in a community, so that in addition to one, geofencing and having the data, two, okay, well, the swivel lights, three, knowing faces, so you feel that you can reach out to this person, or that there's a level of comfort or assurance, as you say. How important are relationships?
Relationship is very important. It is very crucial. We look at what is problem-oriented policing, where we partner with the community. So, for example, things that happen in a community that may cause persons to commit a crime is what are some of the elements that we look at in relation to crime and criminality. What will cause a person to want to do something? For example, it may be that the person has a criminal record and unable to get a proper job. It may be a level of illiteracy. It may be there's a particular stigma attached to where the person is living or their ethnicity or something like that. So it may not necessarily be all policing per se, but it will involve other agencies coming together to be able to prevent and utilizing an all-out approach in relation to crime prevention. Now, one of the things that the TTPS does is that we go into the communities on a regular basis and interact with them through sports. We saw it in Maracas, St. Joseph District over the weekend, where Sergeant Bidesi and others had a nice cricket match with the community. We also had nurses from the community who came, and so persons could have gotten their, tests done. We also had the victim and witness support, the police youth club officers there. So in getting to know the faces that you spoke about, that collaborative approach with the community, tells the community that the police is not against you, we are not looking to lock you up, but we really want to be able to bridge that gap. Crime prevention is really not police only. Crime prevention is really everybody's business. So that if something happens, you can tell us and we will help you.
Yeah. And you mentioned one of the reasons just now, somebody might get interested in crime, something like unemployment, for whatever reason. But what role does the police play in that regard?
We bring in the agencies.
Okay.
So that from a community perspective, there are several agencies that have support that the general public may not be aware of. And in bridging the gap and in having that relationship with the community, we can tell them where they can get the assistance. For example, you may have someone who may have some problems where they're living for whatever reason, maybe domestic. It may be that they have been dependent on someone for, the income, the breadwinner in the home. Through the ministry, they have a grant where you can get your rent paid, I think up to 3 months or so, to help you get back on your feet so that you're able to assist. So you don't have to stay in an abusive situation. So the children can see that, and there is a thing. Because what we have also noticed is that sometimes children who are abused, when they go in school, they're bullies, and from that bullies, there's a cycle. There's a cycle, right? The child comes out of school, they give trouble and that kind of thing. So we see that taking place. So it's not just always crime as we see it, but there's a gradual build up to the problem that we see in the society. So when we think of proactive policing, we think about those things.
I have a concern about using the data carte blanche, right? Because you mentioned geo-fencing. And sometimes we see communities that seem to be targeted more by the police, and maybe because of that data that says, well, a lot more crime has been happening here. But as a result of that, you have people who might not be involved in crime, but they might end up being seen by the police or viewed by the police at the wrong time, wrong date, and they may be addressed in a manner that is not, they're not involved in crime, but they might be addressed as though they are. And in some cases, you see that having negative repercussions. Are there any things or steps in place to make sure that, while we're using the data, that we're targeting the right people?
So one of the things that the community policing does, and I use the word community police because it's very broad, is that it allows the police to go into the community and speak with everybody so that the officers will know who are the criminals and who are not. What we find happening sometimes is that persons who are not involved in criminal activities, they may not want to come out and speak to the police based on the area that they live in, because the area may be locked down by certain criminal elements. And so if they are being seen by the police, they may be targeted as giving information to the police. And so sometimes what you would see, or what the police may do, is just have general road checks, traffic exercise. In that way, we get to see persons. We get to know persons, generally speaking, because we are searching our vehicles, we are checking to see if everything in the vehicle is well and all that kind of thing. So proactive policing is not just targeting persons who we think are criminals or who we know through data collection, because we do. I mean, we're not having sufficient information at the point in time to be able to effect an arrest. But certainly we want to be able to prevent crime from taking place. We have seen a spike in criminal activities after Carnival. And so we don't want persons to think that, yes, we're in a state of emergency.
Still,
right, to end. The expected date is the 15th of April, somewhere there, right? But we don't want persons to be of the opinion that, things are so safe that I can let my guard down. The data from the police is really reassuring, so we can let our guard down. We don't want that taking place at all, because we will see an increase, because remember, the criminals are there looking. And so once the opportunity for a crime to take place is available, meaning the ability, the desire, and the opportunity, 3 elements in relation to what we call the crime triangle, right? Once those 3 are present, crime will take place.
But we have about 2 minutes. I want to ask, though, what role, if any, do police youth clubs play in proactive policing?
Well, good question. So the police youth club, we recruit or have membership from persons from as young as 5 years old all the way to 28 years old. And so we are really a good support to the family, where, for example, if the child is living in an area that has a lot of criminal activity, we give that support to the family and to the community, that they're seeing the young persons, or they have an avenue for the child to be that is a safe space. And so the child can play the sports in the police youth club and other things, get information in relation to crime prevention and all those things. And we also visit the schools. So the police youth clubs would have membership for children, and it has nothing to do with whether the child come from a family that is, involved in criminality, generally speaking, for boys and girls, from age 5 all the way to 28 years old. And we allow the children to have experiences outside of the community. So hiking and camping and traveling and all those things that they probably wouldn't have. The police youth clubs allow the children to experience it. So it's really a good form of proactive policing and community engagement that really captures the young people from small, so that they are not enticed to go into a life of crime or criminal activities. They're seeing an option. They're seeing a future outside of what the circumstance that they're living in.
Yeah. And sometimes that's just enough to show you that there is more to life than what you thought you knew.
Yes, correct.
And I mean, sometimes that's definitely an effective way to do proactive policing.
Yes, I'm actually a club leader.
Huh?
So yeah, I'm a youth club leader for Malabar Police.
Oh, that is why you're endorsing it so much.
So we're in the process of planning camp.
But tell me something, no, Inspector.
fundraisers.
As a youth club leader, have you seen that change in
Yes,
some
I
of the
do.
young people who come in versus after they spend some time there?
Yes, I do. I actually have members who are currently police officers who came in with that desire from young. But I do see the change, and I see it also when the parents can tell us that they're seeing a difference. Now, when you have activities taking place in the youth club and the children want to be there because they like each other, they will behave at home.
Yeah.
And when they know that the officers are going to visit their school, they're also going to behave. So there are benefits to it, because we see it, I do see it, and the children generally love to come out to be together. Yeah.
So they like feeling that sense of responsibility, and they say,
what happens too is that the parent trusts the police to send the children on outings.
Yeah.
So maybe for some other event they might be skeptical, but because it's a police youth club, they would send the child because they know it's a safe environment. So in those cases, we try to get the police bus, we get the support of the organization to be able to have a minimum cost on the parent where activities are concerned. It's really, really a nice place and opportunities for young people to get involved in.
And positive activity. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Inspector. And do enjoy the rest of your week. We'll see you again next week for another update. TTPS on now this morning, ladies and gentlemen, with Inspector Michelle Lewis.